Bills Mafia. On today's Air Raid Hour pregame, we will be breaking down what we expect to see from the Buffalo Bills this afternoon as they take on the New England Patriots. We've got injury updates, key matchups, our pregame superlatives, all coming up. But first,
welcome to the Air Raid Hour, a Cover One Network podcast. Here are your hosts, Judge Mathis and Tilt Money.
welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Air Raid Hour pregame. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on X at the Bills Guys, joined as always by Dave Tilton. You can find him on X at Tilt Money. This is the Cover One pregame show. The Buffalo Bills and New England Patriots kick off this afternoon for some inexplicable reason at 4:25, not at 1 p.m. But I'll tell you what, Dave, I have not thought about this game all week. I started my preparations for this pregame show last night, early this morning. The Bills, they don't have the luxury to do that. They've been focusing on the New England Patriots all week. You don't want to see a letdown this week against, let's be real here, an extremely inferior opponent.
Yeah, I mean, 14.5-point favorites in this game, the Buffalo Bills, that's a huge number in the NFL. This Patriots team is bad, only 3 wins on the season, and we're going to get into a bunch of the advanced metrics and things like that on this team. There's really not a whole lot of positive takeaways about this team. This game's at home for the Bills. They end the season with 3 straight divisional games. They look fairly likely to get the 2 seed kind of regardless of what happens sort of around them. But at the end of the day, you don't want to let up and you don't want to have a letdown at this stage in the season as you start to kind of roll into the postseason here. You've got this Jets game sandwiched around these 2 Pats games, which I think potentially could give the Bills some trouble. But these 2 Patriots games at the end of the year, I think they said it on the broadcast yesterday. I think in the early game that the Bills had, I think either the easiest or second easiest schedule remaining of any team in the NFL. Obviously, that's buoyed by the fact that they do play this Pats team twice. So, yeah, they're going to want to come out and take care of business today. You don't want to be sloppy. You don't want to kind of be going through the motions. You got to take care of business, obviously, and they should get the win today.
Yeah, I think one of the notable storylines is it is a divisional game. Those games are always tough. So even though, on paper we have one of the easier schedules remaining, they are still divisional games, and divisional teams show up for divisional games. They know you better than other teams do. Those games always tend to be a little closer than people think, a little sloppier than people think. And no matter what our opponent looks like today, I mean, we lost to this Pats team last year, and I think they finished with 3 wins and had a top 3 pick in this draft. So it's happened before, literally last year. The Buffalo Bills, they cannot play down to their opponent. It really, I don't think, has been a big problem for the Bills this year. I went back and I looked and I thought, where's a game where the Bills really played down to an opponent? I think there were some stretches in the Colts game, maybe. There was the first half of the Tennessee game for sure. Maybe someone might say the Jets game, but the Jets are not a terrible team. They are talented. They just don't mesh very well together. And then there's the first half versus Arizona, but Arizona has proven to be a really good football team. There is no loss to the New England Patriots on the Bills schedule this year. There is no losing to the Denver Broncos on the Buffalo Bills schedule this year. There is no ugly win versus the New York Giants on the Buffalo Bills schedule this year. They've avoided it to this point. Hopefully it doesn't rear its ugly head today.
Exactly. And I think, you look at the Bills' 3 losses, you lose a shootout to a very good Rams team on the road. You lose on the road to a Ravens team that now has 10 wins after that win against the Steelers yesterday, who has the other sort of, I'm not going to get into it, but the other MVP candidate in Lamar Jackson, who we do like. And then you lose on the road to the Texans. So all 3 of your losses have been on the road against playoff teams, and the Rams probably have a good chance to get in the playoffs. So let's just hope that trend continues. The Bills have showed up. You're right. The first half against Tennessee and maybe at spots against that Colts game, but really that's pretty much all you can point to
Mhm.
this year as far as sort of coming out of the gate slow or letting down. That Cardinals game way back in week 1 feels like forever ago. Really wasn't that bad. I mean, that Cardinals team is quite good. So, and you see it there
Mhm.
being close there in Phoenix. So, the Bills, and especially being at home today, right? You have to come out there and
Yeah.
take care of your business.
Some other notable things to keep in mind for this game: the Bills' offense has scored 30 plus points for 8 consecutive weeks. That has tied the NFL record. So if the Buffalo Bills score 30 or more points today, they will have the NFL record to themselves for 9 straight 30-point games on offense. And then Josh Allen, he's 3 touchdowns away from his 5th consecutive 40 touchdown season. So some benchmarks, some highlights that the Buffalo Bills could achieve in this game today as well.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a stretch there in sort of the middle of the season, and look, I came on um, at the beginning of the season, before the season even started, and said I wasn't sure if he was going to get to that number, and certainly,
Mhm.
obviously, seems now like a foregone conclusion that he's going to hit that 40 touchdown number again for the 5th straight year. And um, I like Charles's comment there, right? You need to come out of this game with a win, and you need to come out healthy. There was incredible graphic I saw yesterday on social media that essentially said, as far as starting the season versus now, how many of your starting players are on IR? And the Bills have 0 right now,
Mhm.
which is just wild to me. And the Detroit Lions had the most. So you have to come out of this game healthy. I know they have some guys banged up, and we're going to get to that in just a second with the injury report.
Mhm.
But you have a few weeks now here towards the end of the season, playing the Pats twice, playing the Jets, to try to get yourself and put yourself in a position where you're as healthy as you can be going into the postseason. So let's just hope that's the case
Yeah.
today.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about injuries. Let's talk about weather to sort of kick off this pregame show. The weather today, high of 18 degrees, cloudy skies for what daylight there will be. I don't think there will be very much daylight, being an afternoon game. No precipitation expected, wind gusts up to 15 miles an hour. So this is going to be similar to the wild card game the Buffalo Bills played against the New England Patriots a couple years ago in 2021. It will be probably about 10 degrees warmer though. So some frigid conditions, but precipitation wind shouldn't be an issue. It's just the frozenness of everything once it gets down below 20 degrees.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't expect really that to affect the Bills' ability to move the ball or
Mhm.
whatever you want to say, right? We saw them do that in the wild card game. No, not really any notable wind, no precipitation. It's just going to be cold. It should be all systems go for the offense and whatever they want to do tonight. The weather should not affect them.
Yeah, I mean, and the Bills have done such a great job over the years, and this is one of the things that I think Sean McDermott doesn't get enough credit for is just being prepared for the elements. You see the Bills doing things like having like Gatorade buckets filled with like warm broth and like all these other various different things the Buffalo Bills have done to sort of combat the weather in Orchard Park over the last couple of years. So the Bills,
Mhm.
I don't want to say they have an advantage here because New England is also a Northeastern team that plays outdoors, but the Bills are accustomed to playing in the stadium. The Bills are accustomed to playing in this weather. The Bills have a quarterback that is weatherproof.
Mhm.
And it'll be interesting to see if New England also has a quarterback that is weatherproof as well, because I think physically Drake May is capable of it. But having played at North Carolina, haven't really seen what Drake May can do in these type of frigid conditions. So that'll be fun to watch today as well. Looking at the injury report for the Patriots, out are both their starting kick returner and their starting punt returner. That's huge in JaMychal Hasty and Marcus Jones. Marcus Jones is also their starting nickel cornerback. So that's a pretty tough loss for them. Questionable for the Patriots are both of their starting safeties, just like the Bills, Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers. Cole Strange, their starting left guard, Caden Wallace, and Keon White, who's a really talented young
Mhm.
defensive lineman. I think the big one for New England wasn't even listed on the injury report because he was placed on injured reserve this week. That is Christian Barmore. He is back to the injured reserve with his blood clot issues that popped up last season. Hope the best for him. That's brutal news. He's a great player. Hopefully he can figure that out and get back onto the football field. But some injuries that New England is dealing with on a team that, let's face it, isn't the most talented to begin with.
No, and I mean, it's interesting to see these two pop up at the end of the week with Keon White um, leading the team in sacks there with 5 or tied with the team lead. We we were kind of wondering about him during the pre-draft process and what kind of team he would land with, and the Patriots were a great fit for him, and he's really blossomed, I would
Mhm.
say, with that team. It's been a good fit for them. So now he pops up late in the week with an injury. Him and Dietrich Wise tied with the team lead with 5 sacks apiece on a team that has really, really struggled to get to the quarterback. They have 27 sacks as a team, which is the 5th fewest in the league. So um, they've struggled to get to the quarterback this year, and that injury is going to be big. We know Marcus Jones is out as well, their slot corner. So does that open things up for Khalil Shakir? He was ruled out. So these injuries for the Pats are, you know, they're significant where they're maybe not necessarily household names for a lot of people, but they're pretty important pieces to this defense. So, again, another notch in the Bills' favor here when we look at some of these Pats injuries.
Yeah, and then looking at the Bills injuries, questionable. You have 3 members of the defensive backfield once again: Rasul Douglas, Damar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp. You have 3 linebackers: Matt Milano, Dorian Williams, Balin Spector, and you have Curtis Samuel questionable as well. Looking at the practice squad elevations for keys to who might be playing, who might not be playing, you have wide receiver Jalen Virgil, who was part of our 53-man roster for a couple of weeks, but now he is back to the practice squad. He has been recalled, and Kareem Jackson has been recalled. Looking at those elevations, Curtis Samuel likely to get a week off to heal. He's sort of been banged up, a little bit of a disappointment this year for him. Hopefully he can get his body right for the playoffs. One of Rapp Hamlin maybe get another week, maybe both, based on the Kareem Jackson call up. They were both limited participants in practice this week, but neither had a red non-contact jersey. And then the linebackers will be interesting. It's a thin position. Maybe Edafano Lafoscio gets activated, and maybe we see Matt Milano get a week off because his issue is soft tissue. Maybe we see Balin Spector get the week off because he popped the calf again. Like, I think maybe one of those 3 linebackers you're going to see sat down. I think Ulofoshio could get activated, not that he'll play on defense, and just a murky situation with all these questionables.
Yeah, and just hate to see that trend right now with how
Mhm.
much the Bills struggled at with linebacker injuries going into the postseason last year. Now, not as significant necessarily this time around, and again, still 3 weeks to kind of get things right. Balin Spector just can't seem to shake the injury bug, although he had a
Mhm.
pretty miserable game, I thought, a week ago. Anyway, wouldn't be surprised if he sat,
Yeah.
but Matt Milano, I think, is the question mark here. Does he play? Does he not play? Um, it doesn't seem like Dorian Williams' injury is super significant, so wonder if he probably be active in this game. I do agree with you. I think it'll be either Milano or Spector down. I think Spector right now will be my gut
Yeah.
as far as
Possibly
who's
both.
possibly
Like
both. Yes, possibly both. And
like
I do
another
think
4 linebacker situation.
yeah, and Ulo could be active, like you said. Be nice to maybe for him to get you know, a little bit of play. I don't know, like you said, probably not a
Mhm.
ton on defense, but would be nice to have him there. Get a few reps maybe going into the latter stages of the year. And then I would imagine if I had to guess right now that it would be Rapp that would be inactive over Hamlin. It
Yeah.
seemed like a week ago Hamlin was maybe a little closer than Rapp coming back. And, Rapp's had a bit of a longer injury
Mhm.
history than
Yeah,
DeMar Hamlin.
get that
And
man's body right for the playoffs and get Cole Bishop some reps, right?
get Cole Bishop some reps and like Rapp, man. Like, I said it online. He's like the king of friendly fire, man.
Mhm.
He's like if he's back, he's as good. He could maybe hurt your own players as much as he's gonna hurt someone else. So look, I think he might sit again this week. The Kareem Jackson elevation certainly looks
Yeah.
like at least one of those guys will be down for this game. And yeah, Cole Bishop getting some reps. A good, I don't want to say easy game for Cole Bishop to get reps, but certainly from compared to a
Mhm.
week ago going against the Detroit Lions, now coming against the New England Patriots, a team that's really struggled to throw the ball. Maybe a bit of a room to breathe here for Cole Bishop this week and kind of like getting his
Mhm.
bearings back a little bit.
All right, let's shift our attention now to the Buffalo Bills offense versus the New England Patriots defense. Who are these Buffalo Bills up against? What does the DVOA tell us about this New England Patriots defense?
Yeah, I mean, it's not favorable. The DVOA has the Pats as the 30th overall defense, 31st against the pass, 29th against the run. Pretty abysmal across the board. As far as the passing defense, they're actually 16th in raw statistics, but 31st in DVOA. So um, I think what the DVOA is telling you here is that this team has really maybe not necessarily had to defend the pass a ton this year because they've
Mhm.
been getting steamrolled in a lot of games. They played four bottom four pass offenses in the Bears, Jags, Colts, and Titans. The Jets, Houston, and Arizona are all bottom half pass offenses as well. So they played against some pretty um, average to below average passing teams. They really haven't been tested by a great pass offense, I would say, since week one. The Cincinnati Bengals, although they did play the Rams a couple weeks ago, a better pass offense and gave up 295 passing yards to the Rams. And so then we go into a little bit deeper. I mentioned they only have 27 sacks as a team against, as far as their passing defense, and that's considered passing defense, fifth fewest in the NFL, and only 6 interceptions as a team, which is the sixth fewest in the NFL. Individual position wise, not great across the board. 23rd against wide receiver ones, 28th against wide receiver twos, a little bit better, 17th against wide receiver threes. Where they're the best has been against the tight ends. They're 15th, but they're 28th against running backs out of the backfield as pass catchers. So look for maybe another Ty Johnson, James Cook type of game out of the
Mhm.
backfield, but a very bad pass defense. And then on the rushing side, it's a little bit more aligned, 21st in raw statistics, 29th in DVOA. Um, you know, not too much divergence here, but again, the DVOA saying that they're a little bit worse than the raw stats. They allowed 163 rushing yards to Arizona in their last game, 144 to Indy in the prior game. Um, Jets, Bengals, Seahawks, Dolphins, Jaguars, Rams, all bottom 10 rush offenses that they played against. Chicago, the 11th worst.
Mhm.
And they're kind of middle of the road statistically as far as yards per allowed and rushing TDs allowed. So again, not a good defense overall. Bad against the pass, bad against the run, missing some pieces on this defense. You could really see here that this is a defense that the Bills should be able to take advantage of, and why they're one of the reasons they're 14 and a half point favorites.
It'll be interesting to see what Joe Brady dials up today because, like, he was in his bag last week, and there were some wrinkles that I really liked, like the implementation of Reggie Gilliam, which I would like to see again this week, sort of, especially given these conditions, and maybe just to help give your run game a little bit of a boost, soup it up a little bit. Get Reggie Gilliam back in there, get him in motion because the Patriots like to run a decent number of man to man and get those players in conflict. Josh Allen was running the ball a ton and designed runs last week against the Detroit Lions. But the question is, when you play a team like New England and you're 14.5 point favorites, and you look on paper and you see how you should just be able to put hats on hats and beat dudes, do you dial it up the way you would in a game against the Detroit Lions or against the Kansas City Chiefs? That would be, it's a concern, but it's also not a concern. But what do you think you see from Joe Brady in attacking this New England offense today?
Well, we mentioned no Barmore. Obviously, that's
Mhm.
significant as well. Uh, the Pats have struggled really to get to the quarterback, haven't really forced a ton of turnovers. I mean, I could honestly see the Bills really going maybe in a more of a traditional route today and sort of letting James Cook, letting Ray Davis loose, getting Ty Johnson involved. Um, I think that the Bills will, try to just build an early lead, lean on the running game a bit today. I think they're
Mhm.
maybe keep some guys out of harm's way. But I do think that there are some advantages to take advantage of in the passing game without Marcus Jones. I think Khalil Shakir could again be utilized quite a bit as far as Yak. Um, and again, running backs out of the backfield. So matchup wise, I think Khalil Shakir is a great matchup. I think the running backs have a good matchup. I don't know boundary wise how much you're going to see volume wise for Cooper and
Mhm.
Coleman today. The Pats have been decent. Christian Gonzalez is a good player on the boundary, but um, I don't know that the Bills need to go there today. So I
Mhm.
think you'll see a lot of the middle of the field stuff. with the running backs with Shakir and Dalton Kincaid. And I don't know that it's going to be a super high volume game on the boundary today. So that's kind of where my gut is telling me, and the metrics are kind of pointing me, is that the Bills will use the middle of the field and use the running backs a bit in the passing game.
Yeah, given the conditions, given the component, let's just make sure. I think the offense needs to make sure they do two things: stay on schedule and avoid turnovers. Like
Mm-hmm.
the New England Patriots probably cannot beat you on their own. They're going to need you to beat yourself a little bit. And if the
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo Bills beat themselves by turning the ball over, by getting themselves in down and distance situations because they're not executing on first and second down, that is a recipe for the New England Patriots to have a chance to stick in this football game. So if you're the Bills, spread the love between your three running backs again. I loved how they got all three running backs involved against Detroit, not just in the running game, which I expect a heavy dose of, especially on early downs, just again to avoid those down and distance situations, but also to get them involved in the passing game. As you mentioned, the DVOA for New England, very poor against running backs out of the backfield. I just want to come out and see the Bills offensive line just absolutely bully this New England Patriots team. I want to see the New England Patriots get sucked up and have to put guys in and stack the box. And then when they do, I want to see the Buffalo Bills just beat them over the top and do the play action stuff. See a nice little heavy dose of the play action game. I get that Josh Allen probably could toss the ball 50 times in this game and have relative success doing so. I just don't know if you're the Buffalo Bills, that's the strategy you want to implement, given all of the context surrounding this football game.
Yeah, and I agree. And again, Patriots -7 in turnover differential, like you said. So you can't let them get some cheap ones. The Bills are the number one turnover differential team in the league. So yeah, beating yourself is really the recipe for the Pats. Like I agree with you. I don't think they can beat the Bills straight up in this game. It will take some fluky type plays, turnovers. We saw the block punt against the Rams, stuff like that to go in the Pats' favor. I think for them to have a decent chance in this game. And as Sweet Spike says, it would be nice to see Trubisky by the fourth. Yeah, I think a couple people have mentioned that. So that would be good. These games, like these big spread games, always make me a little nervous because the big heavily favored teams rarely kind of cover those spreads in these big spread games in the NFL. But this is one where you have to feel like the Bills have a really good chance to kind of pull away fairly early here. So yeah, don't beat yourself today. Keep converting on third downs. The Bills have really climbed the ladder here in recent weeks as far as their third down offense. And, the Pats really aren't that great at defending third downs on defense either. They're the ninth worst team in the NFL in third down defense conversion rate. So the Bills trending up on their third down offense, the Pats bottom 10 in third down defense. Keep moving the chains, use that quick passing game with Shakir, use the running backs, and really try to just get out of here healthy.
Yeah, looking at sort of the Buffalo Bills skill position players, you had Amari Cooper have 14 targets against the LA Rams and then none last week against
Yep.
the Detroit Lions. You've got Keon Coleman now in his second week returning from injury. Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Mac Hollins. They've all contributed in a big way this year. We don't expect to see Curtis Samuel today. It'll be Jalen Virgil in that final wide receiver spot. You've obviously got all three running backs playing at an excellent level in Cook, Johnson, Davis. I think the question for the pregame show now is like, who are the guys that we end up talking about at the end of this one? Because it's not going to be all of these guys, but who are the guys who are going to step up this week for the Buffalo Bills?
It's going to be Khalil Shakir. I think that's number one. And I to me today is Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, and James Cook. I mean, to me, those are the three guys I think that the offense is going to funnel through today. I do agree with you. There'll be a sprinkling of the other running backs, maybe continue to see Ty Johnson work as that passing down back, and his reps have been great. But I think as far as the other skill positions, the receiving skill positions, it's going to be Kincaid and Shakir today. That's not to say that like Cooper and Coleman won't be involved. I just think the volume for them is going to be lower. I mean, Coleman only had the one big catch last week against Detroit as it was. And Cooper really saw nothing. I don't think you're going to see nothing from Amari Cooper today, but I don't think it's going to be like a 14 target game like you saw against the Rams. I do think that maybe between the two of them, you'll see a combined double-digit targets, but I don't expect it to be a huge volume game for them. I do expect Kincaid and Cook to be the benefactors, and I do think Shakir will lead the way today in targets. That would be my prediction.
Marino's Legacy comes in and says Knox and Kincaid touchdowns. I kind of like that prediction. I think the Buffalo Bills will get the tight ends involved today. Charles G says, do the Pats play heavy man or zone defense? I actually went into SIS, and I actually missed this in my show notes, so thank you, Charles. Per SIS, the New England Patriots are fourth in the use of a stacked box, so they are going to be heavy at the line of scrimmage. They are eighth in the use of one high shell, so don't expect a lot of two high shell if you're Josh Allen today. They are third in man coverage use rate in the National Football League, so a lot of man-to-man coverage. Josh Allen might have the ability to scramble a little bit in this game if those defenders turn their backs. And they are 12th in blitz rate. So they blitz a decent amount. So Josh Allen can expect a little bit of that today as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect that if you're the Pats, because you have to throw the kitchen sink, I think, at Josh Allen today to have any kind of chance, right? And hope to force a turnover.
Yeah. I was listening to some of Gerard Mayo's comments this week, and the big thing that they emphasized was keeping Josh Allen in the pocket. So that is probably going to affect your pass rush because you're not going to want your guys going right at the quarterback. You're going to want them going out wide to sort of contain and keep Josh Allen in the pocket. They did a pretty decent job against Kyler Murray last week. I don't think Kyler Murray had a single run against the New England Patriots, but Gerard Mayo did say Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, completely different quarterbacks.
Well,
and it's a different kind of beast trying to keep a guy like him in the pocket.
Well, and look what the Cardinals did on the ground too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, James Conner, like that running game just kind of dominated. And so, I mean, who knows? Maybe you see a game akin to like what we saw against the Dallas Cowboys a year ago.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't surprise me either to see something like that.
Yeah, I'm going through this Patriots depth chart on defense. I like Keon White a lot. I like, obviously Christian Gonzalez. He's one of the young star players in the National Football League. But after that, like Kyle Duggar is a good player. Does he play today? If he does play, he's injured. Jabril Peppers is a decent player. Does he play today? If he does, he's playing injured. Jonathan Jones, decent player. But after that, it's pretty suspect here for this New England defense. And I think the linebackers, particularly Christian Ellis and Jelani Tavai, I think that's where the Buffalo Bills can really exploit the New England Patriots is the linebackers. And I think that you mentioned it, the running back side of the backfield and Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir, get those guys in conflict. And Marcellus Dial, who will likely be starting at nickel in place of Marcus Jones, test him. Like if you're the Buffalo Bills, the linebackers, the nickel corners, if there's a backup safety, those are the guys you're going to want to test.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, and Shakir may end up being my take me higher player today, but an absolute golden matchup for him. And I do love the backside of the backfield mentioned again. Pat's 28th against running backs and DVOA as receivers out of the backfield. And man, Ty Johnson has been a beast on that in that regard of late. So again, I think Ty Johnson has elevated himself out of the wild card category, by the way.
And I don't want to be too selfish here, but you know what I would love to see today? I'd love to see Josh Allen and Keon Coleman try to recreate some of that backdoor shoulder magic. Maybe just remember that Seattle game where Josh Allen would just toss the ball up to Keon Coleman. He'd go up and get a bucket. I'd like to see the Buffalo Bills go back to that a little bit and see if they can recreate that magic and have that back in their toolbox for the postseason. And I'd like to see Keon Coleman get some yak situations as well. Get him in a situation where he can get some run after the catch. I don't know. Maybe it's because Xavier Worthy's starting to go on a little bit of a tear here for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I want to see Keon get back involved a little bit more in the offense this week. Obviously, he made that one big play last week out of structure, but let's get him some plays in structure this week if you're the Buffalo Bills. All right, now on to the Buffalo Bills defense versus this New England Patriots offense. Dave, I will start with you. What does the DVOA tell us about this Patriots offense?
Yeah, and if you thought the Patriots defense was bad, the offense might be worse. They're 30th overall in DVOA offense, 27th in the pass, dead last in the rush. They're dead last in raw passing statistics versus 27th in DVOA, so pretty aligned here. They only have 4 games all year over 200 passing yards against the Colts, Rams, Jacksonville, and Houston. So 3 of those teams are bottom tier pass defenses in Indy, Rams, and Jacksonville. Jacoby Brissett and Drake May have been sacked a combined 45 times going into yesterday. Before those games, that would have been tied for the second most in the NFL with CJ Stroud, who was sacked 45 times going into yesterday. Only Jameis Winston and Gardner Minshew have thrown more picks than Drake May for quarterbacks have started less than 10 games. But Drake May is averaging 70 more passing yards a game than Jacoby Brissett, 189. On the rushing side, this is where we have some divergence. 14th in raw statistics as a rushing offense versus dead last in DVOA. So this is quite the divergence here. Miami and Houston are the only top 10 rushing defenses that New England has played all year. Cincinnati, Seattle, Jacksonville, Chicago, LA Rams, Indy, all bottom half run defenses that this team has played against. Ramondre Stevenson leads the team with 740 rushing yards, but is only averaging 3.8 yards per carry. And they just haven't necessarily been efficient with their running game. So again, one of those situations where the raw statistics tell you they're maybe in the middle of the pack running team, but the DVOA based on opponents, based on the yards per attempt, all of these things that factor in are telling you they're not a great running team. And the Bills, who have at times given up some big plays on the ground, but have done a generally good job of keeping teams sort of from scoring. This is a somewhat favorable matchup for the Bills, right? Because the Patriots aren't great at explosive plays on the ground. Now we saw how that one explosive play for Ramondre Stevenson a couple years ago kind of changed the tides of one game, but the Bills should really have a decent job in stopping him today. Antonio Gibson would be kind of like the X factor for me here.
He's been playing well.
He's been playing well. He's averaging 4.7 yards per carry, and in recent weeks they've been trying to get him more involved. He's had at least 4 carries in 5 straight games, and he's got involved a bit in the passing game last week as well. He would kind of be the guy I'd be more worried about if you're the Buffalo Bills. But again, this Patriots offense not good, and in the advanced metrics, passing or running, although they have been a little incrementally better passing the ball with Drake May under center.
Yeah, I think Taylor Kyles, who is friends of the pod with, Disguise coverage, he's always on with Pro Anth. He does a great job covering the Patriots. And he was talking about Antonio Gibson. Like since week 10, he has as many 10-plus yard plays, I think, as Hunter Henry or Ramondre Stevenson, or maybe the two of them combined. And he's done so on like 200 less snaps than the two of them. So Antonio Gibson, when he touches the ball, he has been effective for this New England Patriots offense. And I wouldn't be surprised if they come out this week and try to get him the ball more, because I think that's one of the matchups that could give them a pulse offensively. Charles G coming in with a great comment, says expects lots to cover 1 today, crowd the box, shut down the run, and heat up May on late and long downs. That is definitely something I think you'll see from the Buffalo Bills today. I want to talk a little bit about Drake May, because right now Drake May is this New England offense. And while statistically it might not be the best rookie season for him, I think the flashes he's shown, he could legitimately have the highest ceiling of all of those quarterbacks drafted in round 1 last year. He has been pretty good given the environment around him, because the environment around him is terrible. Like it is close to the caliber of what Josh Allen was dealing with in 2017 when he was starting all those games his rookie year. Drake May, I think you need to be aware of him in the run game when things break down, because his offensive line, his skill guys aren't the greatest in the world. Alex Van Pelt has come out and said, I'm not designing runs for Drake May. I don't want to get him hurt in a lost season. So maybe don't expect, unless he's just trying to do the ultimate psych out, right? I don't expect Drake May to have designed runs, but he still is a threat when plays break down. So you got to try to keep him in the pocket like you keep Josh Allen in the pocket. But Sean McDermott, right? Noted for disguising his coverages, noted for success against rookie quarterbacks. Sean McDermott is 8-3 all time with the Bills versus rookie quarterbacks, allowing only 13.1 points per game. Rookie quarterbacks against Sean McDermott in his time with the Buffalo Bills, 58.5 completion percentage, 60 passer rating, 2 turnovers a game. So Sean McDermott knows how to rattle young quarterbacks. I expect a little bit of that today from the Buffalo Bills.
I would too. And I think, look, Drake May, he's got playmaker in him. You mentioned it. It could be a couple years down the road where we're talking about maybe him in the same, in the same category now as like a guy like Jaden Daniels, who's had a great rookie season. But I mean, you can make the argument that Drake May is playing even better than Caleb Williams, given what's surrounding him, right? And Drake May does not have a lot surrounding him, but he is a gamer. He reminds me a little bit of Baker Mayfield in that way. But again, he's thrown a lot of interceptions this year. He's turned the ball over. The Pats are the fourth worst third down offense in the league. They have the 11th most offensive penalty yards in the NFL. So it's not a super tight operation around Drake May, but off script stuff, some chunk plays that he's had at times this year to Keyshawn Boutte and Jalen Polk and others, like there are some glimpses and glimmers of what Drake May could be. And the Bills have been really good about preventing the big play this year. I mean, the last two games aside, I think a bit of anomalies given the offenses they played, but I think the Bills are going to force Drake May to have like a 12, 15 play drives on him if they're going to score. And this team has not been good offensively. And take it for what it's worth, but PFF has the Pats as the worst run blocking offense and the worst pass blocking offensive line in the NFL.
We're gonna talk about that offensive line in a moment as well. But I think if you're the Buffalo Bills, the game plan today is if you're gonna blitz, they should probably be run blitzes. And if you want to be successful, right? I think pressure with 4, because you should be able to get pressure with 4 in this game. You shouldn't have to be exotic with your blitzes to get pressure on Drake May. Pressure with 4, drop back into zone coverages, have a spy, make sure your eyes are on Drake May at all time. If you can apply pressure with 4, maybe he can toss some bad passes. Your secondary guys will be there to turn the ball over. So if you're the Bills, play a lot of zone, try to apply pressure with 4. That would be my suggestion for trying to deal with Drake May, because again, Taylor Kyles, I was scrolling through his timeline this week and he was showing some cut-ups of Drake May. Drake May does a really good job of avoiding sacks. He does a really good job of handling blitzers well with his legs. So again, keeping him contained in the pocket, keeping pressure with 4, those will all be things I think the Buffalo Bills will have to do. But you mentioned that offensive line. The Patriots offensive line, if Cole Strange is out, Vidarian Lowe, Layden Robinson, Ben Brown, Michael Onwenu, and Demontre Jacobs left to right. And even if Cole Strange does play, still not the greatest offensive line in the world. Respectfully, they might be the worst offensive line in football, as you sort of mentioned with some of the PFF grades there. Need to see the Bills defensive line just absolutely dominate up front. They should be able to do so without needing help from the linebackers in the secondary.
100% agree. And a little bit of like, it's weird to say in a game where you gave up 42 points or whatever it was. But the Bills defensive line did a pretty good job last week in getting pressure on Jared Goff. Obviously, Ed Oliver had his best game, I think, of the season, generating the pressure up the middle. And I mean, Veridian Lowe, you mentioned, like, he's got the 15th, he's given up the 15th most hurries in the league, 15th most sacks in the league. Of all tackles, that includes left and right tackles, by the way. So been a struggle for him. That offensive line in general has struggled. I think that if the Bills can't get pressure with 4 today, it'll be a bit of a concern from me. But it all starts with first downs, I think, in the run blitzes you mentioned, and just the run stopping ability. Again, Stevenson's only averaging 3.8 yards per carry. Like, there is no reason for this Bills front to be giving up big first down runs. You force this Pats team into 3rd and longs, like, it's going to be a long day for them. They are not a good third down team. You can get to the quarterback. We mentioned 45 combined sacks for May and Brissett this year, which would be 2nd most. Like, this Bills team needs to get to the quarterback today.
They got Aaron Quinn coming in saying Von Miller playing better than people are talking about. I don't need a snaps to go up today, but they need to go up in the playoffs. His PRP is right in line with Groot and other awesome pass rushers, and his run stop percentage is tied with Groot. And then there was a great comment from Robert Wilson as well. I want to see Javon Solomon play a lot. And I think with Casey Toohill now being moved down to the practice squad, you might see an uptick in the percentage of snaps that Javon Solomon is playing. I think Javon Solomon has to prove he can stop the run and set the edge if he wants to get some early down looks. But if the Buffalo Bills get some people in third and long in this game, maybe we see some Javon Solomons as well. So whether it's Groot, whether it's Ed Oliver, whether it's Javon Solomon, whether it's AJ Panessa, whether it's Dwayne Smoot, whether it's Von Miller, right? Like the Buffalo Bills need to have success hat on a hat against this Patriots offensive line that is not good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, rotate these guys in. I think, yes, I agree. Von Miller has been playing better than maybe it appears on the surface. I thought he, going back to the Rams game, I thought he was the best defensive lineman on the field for the Bills in the Rams game. I thought he had some nice moments as well. He had the sack last week, the combined sack with Groot. So it's a good time for Von Miller to start kind of getting that juice flowing. We know in his past, he's been great in the playoffs, from his prime. And even if you can get a little bit of that flash back from Von Miller in the playoffs, it's a nice time of the year for him to be trending in the right direction.
Looking at the Patriots skill position players, they got Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson out of the backfield. They both can make plays. Like they're both quality football players, whether they can with this offensive line. Again, they've struggled a little bit this season. Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper are dependable over the middle security blanket tight ends. Pop Douglas is a fun little slot gadget guy that I don't think that they use well enough. And then their receivers are really what lacks the spark on this offense outside the offensive line, especially on the boundary. You mentioned Butte. They got Kendrick Bourne. Jalen Polk has seen his playing time go down over the course of the season because he struggled. Javon Baker is on IR. So not a lot going for the New England Patriots at the skill position at the skill position.
No, they've kind of had a mixed bag. Like they've had like the dollar store version of everybody eats compared to the bit. Like they've had guys in and out. They've had some flashes, but at the end of the day, like this is a team that's really struggled skill position wise. And at the, guys like Demario Douglas, I think like sort of like I'll call him like a very watered down version of like an Amon-Ra as far as style. Like he's a guy that maybe can do some damage. If you're the Patriots, Kendrick Bourne has had some good moments against the Bills in the past. So like there's something there, and Hunter Henry has been pretty reliable as a security blanket for Drake May this year. So like there's something there for the Pats, but it's really, if you're the Bills looking at it and looking at what you faced the last 2 weeks, this should be an appealing matchup if you're the Bills defense. And at the end of the day, like I wouldn't expect that this Patriots offense is going to be super efficient. If they hit a big play or two with a guy like Bourne or a guy like Hunter Henry, like I'm not going to be too worried about it because I just don't think it's sustainable for them for 10, 15 plays on a drive.
Yeah, I mean, some things that I saw the Buffalo Bills introduce versus Detroit last week that I would like to see more of, and they did a really good job of breaking this down on the film room. So if you haven't had a chance to go check out the film room, go check out the film room with Anth and Eric. They did a great job talking about some of the wrinkles that the Buffalo Bills implemented against Detroit last week that we really hadn't seen a lot of previous to that. And one of them was the defensive tackle over the center, and I think the notable play was obviously Ed Oliver demolishing Frank Ragnow. I would like to see more defensive tackle over the center stuff from the Buffalo Bills. Ben Brown, the center for the Patriots, I don't give much weight to PFF grades. I think anyone who follows me on social media knows that. Actually, I don't give any weight to PFF grades, but Ben Brown had a 0 PFF pass blocking grade last week, a 0. So even if PFF grades are meaningless, as I think they are, that's still probably a pretty good indication that he wasn't very good last week against the Arizona Cardinals. So getting Ed Oliver or Daquan Jones or Dwayne Carter lined up over top of Ben Brown, take advantage of that. That seems like something you might want to do if you're the Buffalo Bills. Again, I would sell out against the run and make the New England Patriots one-dimensional because I think you can apply pressure with 4 guys and you can drop people back. So maybe we see some more base 3 linebacker sets again in certain situations, even though we are kind of depleted at linebacker. So maybe that isn't the best suggestion in the world. If we do blitz, I want it to be run blitzes, right? Because that could help you not just stop the run, but that also can help you apply pressure if the Patriots decide to utilize the play action, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit here. because they had a decent chunk of play action plays last week. So where do you think the Buffalo Bills should go on defense in terms of trying to cover this New England Patriots offense? Because I think really the one thing you got to worry about is Drake May and his ability to make a play, and the fact that they're going to be quick hitters in this game too. Like they know their offensive line sucks, so they're going to be boom, boom, boom. They're going to try to get the ball out quick.
Yep. I mean, to me, this is it's an interesting scenario for the Bills. I do think they come out and they play some tight, I will call it tight zone, press zone, whatever you want to call it. I think they'll be close to the line of scrimmage, but I think the Bills are going to have 7 guys in coverage almost exclusively and challenge the Patriots to try to run the ball. Even with those quick hitters, I think you're going to see ideally very limited yards after catch for the Patriots, right? It's going to be a lot of guys around the ball, I think, immediately as the Patriots pass catchers are catching it and kind of making them again sort of drive down the field 10, 12, 15 plays. And I think the Bills are going to be content sort of giving up quick passing, kind of like we saw a little bit against the Tennessee Titans, I would say, and Mason Rudolph, where they were kind of content giving up some very short passing yardage, but at the end of the day, trying to force that Titans team to drive down the field and putting sustained drives together proved to be a challenge. I think it will be the same against the Pats today. I think you'll see a lot of 7-man coverage. I think you'll see a lot of sort of close zone coverage to the line of scrimmage around the middle of the field, around the box, and daring sort of the Patriots to kind of try to go over the top a bit. It's a little bit risky because you might give up a play or two, but I also think that the Bills will try to limit the easy cheap yards after the catch for that Pats offense. And so I do expect a lot of rallying to the ball, a lot of short, quick passes for the Pats, but a lot of sort of 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5 situations for New England.
Looking at some of their trends from last week against Arizona, they had 7 play action dropbacks. In those 7 play action dropbacks, May was 3 for 5 for 14 yards. I don't want to see the Buffalo Bills give them any kind of confidence in the play action passing game, but that is a team with an offensive line that struggles with those plays that take a little bit of time to develop. Where I did see a trend for the New England Patriots was in the screen game. They had 7 screens last week against the Arizona Cardinals. They went 7 for 7 on those plays for 55 yards. If you're the Buffalo Bills, you need to be prepared for those screen passes. I don't think you can get too far upfield. So I don't want to see these edge rushers be like, well, this offensive line sucks. I'm going to get after it. I'm going to get after Drake May. I'm going to try to, beat my guy around the edge and get too wide, because if you do and you get too far upfield, I think they can beat you in the screen game. So you got to be disciplined there. I think this is where the Patriots are going to try to take advantage of this Buffalo Bills defense. I think back to the first half of that the Titans game with the tight end rollouts, right? The play action and hitting the tight ends in the flats. I think you're going to see Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper get involved a lot today. I think you're going to see a ton of screen passes. I think you're going to see a ton of dump offs to Antonio Gibson and Ramondre Stevenson, extensions of the run game type of passes. And I think you're going to see Pop Douglas, maybe some jet sweeps or some gadget type of things. That's where I think the Patriots want to live. Things that you can do quickly, things that you can do close to the line of scrimmage, things that can develop into yards after the catch, explosive type of plays. Because they can't get the ball downfield because they can't. Drake May doesn't have the time to hold the ball to get the ball downfield that way.
He doesn't. And I mean, Henry leads the team in catches with 62. Mm-hmm. Hooper is 3rd on the team in catches with 34, and Ramondre has 32. So Pop Douglas sandwich in the between there 2nd. So I agree with you. I think, we talked about Antonio Gibson, but Stevenson can damage you in the passing game as well. We've talked about him in the past as being kind of a complete back. I mean, that's their best chance, right? Is getting the ball out of Drake May's hands quickly, maybe taking advantage of the Bills' ability to rush with 4, and then popping some screens sort of over the top of that. But, that typically would play into what you would think the game script would go as well. If the Bills get into a lead, I could see a lot of sort of 3rd down style offense from the Pats, as far as like up tempo, 2-minute drill, as far as Antonio Gibson getting play, Hunter Henry in the tight end screen game, I think getting play. Those are areas where the Pats maybe can try to find something, right? Because you go back and you kind of look at games where the Bills, first half of that Tennessee game, they gave up a lot of plays to tight ends. It wasn't for huge yardage, but like all 3 of those tight ends for Tennessee got involved. They've given up plays to Jonnu Smith with Miami in their screen game. And so you're looking for any kind of sliver of hope here if you're the Pats offense. And I think that is an area where they can move the ball. And I know he's not Jahmyr Gibbs or no one is, but he had a good day receiving last week for the Detroit Lions, including a touchdown. So
Mhm.
it's definitely an area where you're concerned, but you're hoping the Bills kind of limit, again, limit the yards after catch. That's the big thing.
All right, let's get into it. Our pre-game superlatives. As always, we start with our Take Me Higher player of the game. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our Take Me Higher player of the game. Dave, who is the one player for the Buffalo Bills, not named Josh Allen, that you think needs to step up in a big way for the Buffalo Bills to win this football game?
Yeah, the yardage totals weren't necessarily there last week, but has been Mr. Consistent all year for the Bills with yards after catch. No Marcus Jones this week for the Pats. I'm going Khalil Shakir for my Take Me Higher player. I just think the matchup is really good for him. I think the volume will be limited on the boundary for guys like Coleman and Cooper. Not saying they won't contribute again, but I do think Shakir has the best matchup. And I do think he'll be the focal point of the passing attack as far as the receivers are concerned, although I expect Cook and those guys to be involved. Ty Johnson kind of stole the show last week, leading the team in receiving yards. Would not surprise me if this week it was Khalil Shakir as the number one target for Josh Allen yet again. So for me, it's Khalil Shakir today in the good matchup as the Take Me Higher player.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a defensive theme this week for my pregame superlatives. I'm going to start here with my Take Me Higher player of the game. I'm going to say Gregory Rousseau and or Ed Oliver. I just want to see this defensive line dominate New England at the line of scrimmage. Their offensive line is not good. I want the Buffalo Bills defensive line to treat it and show as such. And I wanted to start with these young vets. Make Drake May's life miserable today. Force him to take some risks that the guys in our secondary can take advantage of. So I'm going to go with either Rousseau or Oliver, whichever one wants to step up, hopefully both, for the Buffalo Bills to get a victory today. Up next here is our wild card player of the game. A couple people in the chat said Keon Coleman. Spin 0481 comes in, says Coleman. Beth comes in and says, agree, Spin. I say Coleman, he's a big game before the playoffs, so he's going in super confident. I didn't mention Coleman during our Take Me Higher player because I don't think he is quite the caliber of a Take Me Higher player yet, but I certainly think he would fit the description of a wild card player of the game. So the chat's going with maybe Keon Coleman. Who are you going with here for your wild card player of the game?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with a guy I went with a couple weeks ago and not necessarily going to be a box score stuffer, but I think AJ Epinesa today can be a wild card player for the Bills. I think with his length, the Pats trying to maybe get that screen game going, the Pats maybe trying to get the quick passing game going with Drake May getting the ball out of his hands quickly. Epinesa has been good at batting balls down, did it against the Chiefs, has done it a good amount throughout his career along with Gregory Rousseau, but I could see AJ Epinesa being a benefactor today of a weak Patriots offensive line, contributing maybe with a sack, a batted ball, and especially important sort of reading the screen game from the Patriots and making a big play there. So for me, my wild card player today is AJ Epinesa.
I'm sticking with the defense as well. I'm going with Von Miller. Obviously, the contract and the name, you'd expect Von Miller to be in the Take Me Higher portion, but I still think he's sort of earning his way back into Take Me Higher territory. And I think these last couple of games here is where he really puts himself back into the Take Me Higher territory. I'm expecting a vintage Von Miller game today. 2 sacks. He's matched up against DeMontre Jacobs. Take advantage of it. I think we're going to come out of this game talking about Von Miller.
I love that. I mean, now we got the ends covered. I see some interesting ones in the comment section.
Yeah.
Cole Bishop comes into his own.
Yeah, Cole
and again,
Bishop.
I think Ty Johnson is now in this weird limbo where he's not really a wild card player anymore, but he's not maybe a Take Me Higher. I guess you would say he's probably still more towards the wild card than he is the Take Me Higher, but I also we'll call him maybe like an X factor or something today. I think Ty Johnson throws his name into the ring as well and into one of these categories.
Yeah, we got Charles G saying got to get Shakir to 1K today. I thought 1K was going to be hard for him once he lost that game to injury, and then sort of lost that second game to injury because he wasn't really targeted in that Houston game when he played, or maybe it was the game after Houston. So good kudos to Khalil Shakir, who's really coming on as the Bills' go-to wide receiver. Up next, our Respect You player of the game. All right, Dave, who is one player from this New England Patriots team that you have to respect in order to win this football game today?
Look, I think this is tough because you
There's
want to
one.
say
There's two answers. There's two answers. There's two.
I'm gonna say, oh man, I am gonna say Ramondre Stevenson. I
You
want to say,
managed to pick not one of the two that you should have picked.
okay, well, I am gonna say Ramondre Stevenson because I do think Antonio Gibson is a guy you got to pay attention to,
Mhm.
but Stevenson has been the workhorse for that Patriots team. If he can find some efficiency on the ground and get worked into the receiving game, again, 32 catches, he's fourth on the team. He's really, I think, their chance as far as keeping the Patriots sort of on schedule. I think it's going to be a struggle for them to run the ball, but if he can get sort of over that 4 yards per clip mark today, then
Mhm.
they have a fighter's chance. And I know in the past he's had some decent showings against the Bills. I think Drake May obviously can be in consideration too, but I'll go with Ramondre Stevenson. I think if the Bills slow him down, then it'll be a very difficult
Yeah.
day for New England.
Yeah, to me, the two answers are Christian Gonzalez and Drake May. But as we're sort of talking, like, I think the answer is Drake May
Yeah.
because Christian Gonzalez, for as good as he is, he's probably one of the best top 5 corners in football. The other 10 guys around him don't show up. There's only so much one cornerback can do, and only so much one cornerback can affect the game. So to me, Drake May is going to have effect on every offensive play for the New England Patriots. So yes, Christian Gonzalez is an elite all-world talent at cornerback, but just in isolation, taking one receiver away, the Bills just have so many other ways to beat you. And I don't know if his teammates are going to be able to step up for him. So yeah, Drake May to me is my respect you player of the game. I think if you're the Buffalo Bills, you can't let him make plays out of structure. You can't let him get the ball into the hands of guys and yards after catch situations. I think if there's one sleeper player of the game, it's Antonio Gibson. You mentioned Ramondre. I think their best chance today is the Buffalo Bills just not bringing their A game in terms of tackling and sort of reacting and taking angles. Because guys like Stevenson, guys like Gibson, guys like Hunter Henry, guys like Austin Hooper, like they can beat you in the dink and dunk game if you don't bring it. So if you're the Buffalo Bills, I think that's what you got to look out for. All right, up next, our fire sale, our hottest takes heading into this Buffalo Bills New England Patriots matchup. All right, Dave, what is your hot take heading into this game?
Yeah, hot take today for me. Bills defense, 5+ sacks on Drake May today. He's getting sacked on average about 3 times per game. So I do think that offensive line is going to struggle today. I do think the Bills are a perfect recipe for disaster, I would say, for the Patriots offensive line, because if they can get a lead in this game and the Pats are having to throw and come from behind, their only real chances in that sort of screen game and the quick passing game. And I think it's going to be a tall order. So to me, I think that Bills defensive line coming off, even though a lot of points allowed, a very, very solid effort, I thought, against the Detroit Lions. And I think is ready to kind of pin their ears back and go after Drake May today. So I will say for my hot take, Bills defense, 5+ sacks on Drake May today.
Yeah, I had a very similar hot take. I originally had the Bills 8 or more sacks. That was my original hot take.
Wow.
I have come down. I have come down from that hot take because, like I said, I was doing some look into Drake May, and I just see the way that he can be elusive in the pocket and the way he can sort of get wriggle out of some sacks, and the way that New England has adjusted to that poor offensive line and gotten the ball out quicker. So I've sort of come down from that 8+ sack prediction. I say the Bills get 6 or more sacks today, or 3 or more turnovers. One of the two. because even if they're not getting sacks, I think they'll apply pressure, and that pressure could lead to turnovers. So I'm going to say the Bills 6 or more sacks or 3+ turnovers. As you mentioned, I think the Bills offense gets out to an early lead, forces New England out of their running game. So the defensive line is able to sort of pin their ears back and get after Drake May. Like, simple as that. That's my thought process behind that take. Roy Collins comes in and says, Josh Allen gets 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns again. Spin comes in and says Coleman and Cooper both get to 100 yards. That would be interesting as well. Beth B says, I can see Shakir getting over 100 yards today. And she also says 30 points before half. That would be interesting as well. Charles G coming in saying Dalton Kincaid 2 touchdowns. All right. Up next, ladies and gentlemen, are game predictions. All right, Dave, take us back to the future. Paint a picture for us. How does this game play out?
Yeah, it's a divisional game, so you never quite know, but I just feel like this is a game where the Bills truly, are going to overmatch the Patriots. I just don't see all of a sudden the Patriots putting some all-world game together after they haven't really done that all season.
Mm-hmm.
Struggled to generate turnovers. They've struggled in their own right to get sacks. They've struggled giving up sacks. They've struggled on third down offense. And I just feel like, yes, maybe they try to kind of control the ball a bit and keep Josh Allen off the field, but that's not really their strength either because they just haven't been efficient as an offense on third down. Yes, Drake May might make a play or two, but I expect that the Bills will be able to move the ball in offense. I expect the Bills defense and their front four to be able to get pressure on their own today and for the Bills to really rally and come to the ball and make tackles, maybe give up a few screens, whatever. But I do think the Bills will pull away. By the end of the first half, we start to see a multiple score lead, and eventually they do pull away and make this a pretty stress-free day for us as fans. And even though we have to wait till 4:25, hopefully it'll be a nice evening for us heading into Sunday Night Football. So I will say the Bills 31, the Patriots 13 in a pretty comfortable win today.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You look at New England, they're averaging 17 points a game. That's second fewest in the National Football League. The most points they've scored this year is 25. That was against the New York Jets. I just don't know if they have the firepower to keep up with the Buffalo Bills. My prediction is Bills 34, Patriots 13. I think the Bills jump out to an early lead, and then they just sort of coast from there. I think the defense is able to pin their ears back. I think they start to play with a little bit of confidence that maybe has been lacking with all the points they've been giving up the last couple of weeks. And I think they're able to take down a talented young quarterback who's really straddled with a talentless offense. So I think Drake May, based on what Sean McDermott has done, I think Drake May looks his worst today. I think you see the worst of Drake May against the Buffalo Bills today than he's looked all season long. So my prediction, Bills 34, Patriots 13. All that means, of course, that the Bills are probably going to be in a knockdown, drag out, like 15-13 win, like they were against the New York Giants last year on Sunday Night Football. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much. Always appreciate you in the comment section. You guys always bring it. If you could, there are 3 ways in which you can really help us out here at the Air Raid Hour. Number 1, and the easiest, is obviously just to smash that like button. Like goes a long way to helping us with the algorithm. Number 2 is clicking that share button. That really helps us as well. Share this on social media, text it to a friend, whatever. Anyone you think would enjoy this Cover One pregame show, send it out. We would appreciate the word of mouth. And then third, once this video is done being live, if you could go back in and leave a comment, even if it's like a game prediction, a thought, a critique of whatever it is that we talked about, whatever you want, leave a comment for us after the video is done going live. That helps us with the algorithm as well. Obviously, the game doesn't kick off till 4:25, so we want to get as many eyeballs as we can on this pregame show. And the more eyeballs we get on this show, maybe the more people join us live every morning and contribute every Sunday morning and contribute to this conversation here. So thank you guys so much. I see this the super chat from Carl Thoman coming in, so we got to read that before we get out of here as well. Carl says some support for Cover One. Thanks, guys. Happy holidays. Bills win today and finish the year at 14-3 with the second seed. They beat the Broncos and the Chiefs and the Eagles. All demons are slayed. Lombardi. I like it. Love the confidence, Carl. Thank you so much. Always appreciate you in the comments section as well. Dave, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, just come out of this game healthy and come out of this game, I would say, hopefully stress-free, but really the win is the most important. And I would say health is the most important tied for the win. So long wait, obviously another 4:25 game, but enjoy the football today. And thank you all for being here again with us this morning.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Thank you for watching tonight's episode of the Air Raid Hour. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out. If you are catching the show on demand, leave a reply in the comments section and we will respond over the course of the week. You can always listen to every episode next day on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, by searching Air Raid Buffalo. Thank you for your continued support, and as always, go Bills!